Hey everyone, this is Kevin with Divinely Designed, and I'm gonna make another quilting video. I really intended to sort of make more videos, but I've been busy actually quilting. So somebody posted recently like, why aren't you making more videos? So I have a client who's going to be giving me a bunch of quilts to quilt for her, and there's a lot of applique, and I haven't done a lot of applique, quilting with applique. So I have on my quilt frame right now a vintage top that I got at an estate sale that has blocks with butterflies, and you can see one right back here. Okay, that's it. So it's just a butterfly applique in the middle of a block, blank block around it. And I've been testing some both free motion and some computer quilting around the applique to sort of test some designs, try things out, practice doing some quilting around applique. I might actually use this for the client, so I can kind of show her some things and get her feedback and say, you know, I did this in this block, do you like that? Where do you think this might work on some of your quilts? That kind of thing. So it's kind of a combination of free motion stuff and then using the mask feature. The mask feature on the Innova is one of my favorite things to use. I think it's super versatile, lets you do really cool things. So that's what I'm going to do a video on right now. Hopefully I can keep this kind of short, okay? But let's take a look down here at the quilt. Now the quilt's kind of loose on my frame at the moment, but so this is, so you can see here's the applique. The blocks are all the same. The butterfly is just sort of pointing in a different direction. And here I use some cross hatching and kind of multiple masks, and I'm going to show you how I did it. Here, this is all kind of using the same technique, just sort of multiple masks. Here I did an echo. These are a couple of other different patterns using as background. Here are some bubbles. This is kind of a chain pattern and kind of a Greek key. Now this is a really old quilt. It's sort of wonky. Nothing's really square. There are some stains on it. But it was, I got it for like $30 at an estate sale. And, you know, thought it'd be a great practice piece. And then when I'm all finished, you know, I'll wash it and it'll be a great old quilt. So, okay. So let me, I'm going to advance my quilt to some blank blocks. And I'll be right back. Let's see. Okay, I just advanced it to where I have some blank blocks here, and we're going to work on this block. Like I said, this is a really old quilt. It's kind of wonky. There's some fullness in some of the squares. So, you know, but it's a good practice one. It's not super, you know, I'm not super worried about messing things up. Okay, and let me see if I can kind of get a slightly better position here. Okay, that should be okay. All right, so we're going to start by using the push pin feature, right? That's going to let us set the mask, the area that we want to stitch in. Now, I'm going to use my sew head to create that. Now, you can do this on the computer, or you can actually use, on your sew head, you can actually use the push pin thing here. I'm going to grab my mouse, and I'm going to pull up, I'm just going to pull up my push pin thing on my computer here. Okay, so I've hit the start button, and I'm going to use the white button on my sew head to define the area. Now, you just want to take, you know, where this needle would go down, and to make this easier, you can actually, you know, put your needle really close down there. And then I'm going to use the push pin and I'm going to trace the outline of my block, okay? I'm just pressing the white button as I go along here, a couple different spaces. Now this is fairly straight over here. The less straight it is, the more push pins you probably need. Now I have a little bit of wonkiness here, just following that. Oops. And if you really mess up, you can hit that undo button on your computer and erase, you know, the last pin or the last couple of pins you put there, and then just start over. I'm just tracing along here, using that needle as my, sort of like the pen, right? It's the tip of my pen where I'm drawing my line. Okay, I'm gonna click the done button, and on my computer screen, when you use those push pins, it puts a little blue square. I don't like those on my computer screen because I think they get in the way. So there's a button on your computer screen where you can remove those. So I'm gonna remove all those little blue dots, and then I'm going to start again. I'm going to do the same thing, except this time I'm going to trace around the butterfly. Now, for this tracing, I'm actually going to use the edge of my, I have the ruler foot on here. I'm going to use the edge of my ruler foot, and I'm going to trace around the outline of the applique butterfly. And in fact, I'm actually going to keep it maybe kind of loose. Okay. Hopefully there's not really a jump there. My iPhone went off. So I'm going to do a second mask, and I'm going to trace around the butterfly here using just the edge. I'm going to use my ruler foot, and I'm going to use the edge of the ruler foot to follow along the edge of the applique. I'm actually going to even keep it a little bit loose here. I'm not going to necessarily keep it super right on top of it. But I am gonna, you know, kind of use the edge to follow around so I get kind of a consistent line. Now I've already started my push pin, and again, I'm gonna use the white button on my sew head to do that. I'm gonna remember that I'm starting in the corner here at the top of this wing here, and I'm gonna press the button. Now this is very curvy. I'm gonna press the button a lot because I wanna try and get kind of as gentle curves as I can. Now, I have my belts on my sew head, obviously, here. So you do get some resistance as you're moving this. So take your time, and you want to try to, you know, be pretty precise about this if you can. More push pins are better. Don't be afraid to click that button. Now, I'm also going to tell you, after I've done this quite a few times on this quilt, this isn't necessarily perfect with the computer. If you want really, you know, clean lines, tracing the outline of an applique, I would probably take my belts off and do that, you know, freehand with rulers. But this will get you pretty darn close. Okay, I'm done. I'm going to click the done button, and now I've traced the square and the butterfly. Let's go over to the computer. Okay, so I know this is kind of hard to see a little bit. I'm going to try to get a little bit closer here. All right. Okay, so hopefully you can see this purple line, which is the square, and the purple line, which is my butterfly. I'm going to select both of them, just drag my mouse over so that they're highlighted. I'm going to right click, I'm going to unlock them, and then I'm going to cue them. Okay, so now those lines are in green. What I want to do is I want to have a little bit of a border, like a little bit of a blank space around the square and around the butterfly. So I'm going to echo these lines first. So I'm going to come up to the echo feature. I'm going to select my outer square. I'm going to come over to, let's see if I can get this over here. I'm going to make the spacing 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to put 0.25 in the echo spacing distance. I want the echo on the inside of the square, and I want the corner types to be square. I only want one echo, so I'm just going to leave it there, and I'm going to click the echo button. And if we look back over there, you should see there's now a green inner border, so I can have sort of a space between it. Now I want to do the same for the butterfly. I'm going to select the butterfly, except I'm going to change the spacing here. So because I use the foot, if I use 0.25 and I put this on the inside of the butterfly, it's actually going to go over the applique. So I make it smaller than that. I'm going to make this a 0.15. And I found that works pretty well. If I was a little sort of imprecise here, even this line, this 0.15 line, there's probably going to be little spaces that it may actually hit the applique instead of just going around it. This one I am echoing now, I am trying to mimic sort of what would be a stitch in the ditch, right? Stitching that would go absolutely right next to the edge of the applique itself. So I used the ruler foot to give me a little bit of space. This echo that I'm creating is on the inside. It's getting closer to the applique, but I'm going to only make it 0.15. I'm going to change this to round, the echo corner, to make these lines a little bit smoother. And I still only want one echo, and then I'm going to hit echo. Okay, so now I have two. Let's see if I can get a little bit closer here. Okay, now I have two echoes, right? So I have an outer square and an inner square. I have an outer butterfly and an inner butterfly. Great. Okay, now I want to put a pattern in the background there. I have this pattern I'm going to use over here called Star Spangled Banner. I haven't used this one. I'm going to go to my little stretchy man, my transform. I'm going to make it a little smaller. For this size, try to scale it down a little bit here. Make it just a little bit smaller, I think. And then I'm going to repeat it. So now I have sort of two of them attached together. And I want to make sure that's long enough to cover the entire square. And then I'm going to copy it because I want enough of them to cover. Okay, I want enough of them to cover the height of the square, and that looks like 3 of them is just enough, okay? Now, those are 3 separate patterns, right, that I have copied and just sort of put next to each other. I'm going to select them all. I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to group them together. So now it's all one group. I'm going to take this whole group now, and I'm going to place it on top of the masks or the outlines that I have created. Now this gets very difficult to see. I'm going to zoom in here though. So I'm going to zoom in, and here, see these straight lines? That's my square. That's the edge of my square. And here's the edge of my butterfly. I want to crop out this stuff, right? So I'm going to select the inner square line, and I'm going to start there by creating my mask. So I'm going to zoom out here a little bit. I'm going to go to the mask feature. I already have this selected, this inner square line. I'm going to click the build. Let me come back here a little bit, hopefully, so you can see everything. So I'm going to come over to the side. I'm going to click the build button. Notice that that area sort of becomes blue. I'm going to click on the edge of that blue area. It becomes red. Then I'm going to click on the pattern that I want to crop. That's these stars. Now, it's important that we grouped them, right? Because that's all one group now. I'm just going to click on that star pattern. And then I'm going to come over to the side. Now, this is my inner square. I want to crop out everything outside of that. So I'm going to select outside. I am going to keep checked the continuous sew and the sew mask outline, and I'm going to hit accept. Okay. So I've cropped out everything outside of that inner border, right, which gives me that little blank space between the first square that I used my sewing head to trace. I want to repeat the same thing for my butterfly now, except I'm going to use the outside butterfly line, right? Not the inside. I'm going to use the outside butterfly line. I selected that line. I'm going to go to the mask feature, hit the build button. Again, it highlights in blue. I'm going to click on the edge of the line here, right? I'm going to take my cursor. I'm going to click right here on the edge of that blue line. It becomes red. Once again, I'm going to click on my star and stripe pattern here. And then I'm going to come over here. Whoops. Now, except this time I want to crop the stuff that's on the inside. So I'm going to change my selection to inside. I'm going to leave continuous sew and sew mask outline checked. I'm going to hit accept. So here we are. So we still have that outer square line, the inner square line, and there's nothing there, right? It's a blank space. I have my butterfly outer line and the butterfly inner line, and that also gives me that little unquilted border, okay? So let's go back to the quilt and stitch this out. Oops. All right, let's see. I might pick up the phone and when this is quilting to sort of give you a little bit better here, but let me get things started. I'm going to hit my go button on my computer. It's going to get a little noisy. It's building the pattern. Whoops, okay. I'm going to hit continue. It's going to move into position. I'm going to do a pick up my bobbin thread. Now I'm going to hit continue. I have mine that it does a tie off and it does 3 little stitches. And when I do that, I like to sort of wiggle the head just a tiny bit so my stitches lock in place a little bit better. So that's what you'll see me do. I'm going to hit continue. And then it's going to start stitching. Okay, this is the first line I traced. Now, I wasn't perfect, right? You can see as I trace that around, it's not exactly in the ditch. It's pretty close. That's pretty good up there. But it's not, perfect. That takes a little bit of... And again, this is totally fine for this quilt here. It's not bad, but... Okay. Oops, let's see if I can get that going here. All right, now we're going to continue to the next part of the pattern. Okay, this is, oops, this is the inner line. This is tracing very close to the applique. And we'll get close up of this a little bit later, but this is the first trace. Oops, sorry, my camera's not exactly stable here. Sorry. Okay. Oops. All right, now it's starting to quilt some of that fill. All right, I'm going to leave this recording go, but I'm probably Okay, so, oh gosh, my hair's all a mess. All right, so we're all done. Let me get my tripod out of the way here. Let me give you kind of a close-up, but hopefully you can see there's a nice little border around the butterfly, and there's a nice little border around the outside square itself. Okay, so that's using the mask feature with applique. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I don't know that I'm an expert in it at all, but I really like the mask feature. I've used it quite a bit, so I'm happy to try and help. Okay, that's it. Thanks very much. Hope you have a great day. Bye.